Looking back, I should have known that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But there I was, 3 months into dating Eliza, convinced I'd hit the relationship lottery. She was gorgeous, the kind of beautiful that made guys do double takes when we walked into a bar. Long chestnut hair, green eyes that seemed to change color depending on her mood, and a smile that could light up a room. But more than that, she seemed different. She was funny, ambitious, and seemed genuinely interested in my boring-ass life as a software engineer. "I love hearing you talk about your work," she'd say, resting her chin on her hand while I rambled about coding problems that would put most people to sleep. And like an idiot, I believed her. We met at my buddy Mike's housewarming party. Mike had been warning me for months that I needed to get back out there, after my last relationship ended in a dumpster fire. I wasn't looking to meet anyone that night, which is probably why it happened. I was hiding in the kitchen, nursing a beer and scrolling through my phone when she walked in. "Are you hiding too?" she asked, grabbing a beer from the fridge. I looked up, and for a second, I forgot how to form words. Yeah? Parties aren't really my thing." She laughed. "Same. I'm Eliza. I work with Mike's girlfriend." "Jason," I said, extending my hand like some kind of corporate robot. She shook it, but held on a beat too long, her eyes locked on mine. We spent the next 3 hours in that kitchen, talking about everything from our favorite movies to our most embarrassing childhood memories. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise to get coffee the following weekend. Things moved pretty quickly after that. Coffee turned into dinner, dinner turned into her staying over at my place, and before I knew it, we were spending nearly every night together. It was intoxicating, the kind of whirlwind romance you think only happens in movies or to other people. But here's where things got weird. About 3 months in, we were lying in bed after what I can only describe as the kind of sex that makes you question if you've been doing it wrong your entire life. She was tracing patterns on my chest with her fingers, and out of nowhere, she looked up at me and said, "I love you." My brain literally short-circuited. I'm talking full system failure. Blue screen of death. I just stared at her like she'd grown a second head. In my defense, it felt early. Don't get me wrong, I was crazy about her. But love? That's a big word. A serious word. The kind of word that changes everything. But in that moment, looking at her hopeful expression, what else could I say? "I love you too." The smile that spread across her face was like watching the sun rise. She kissed me, and as we fell asleep with her head on my chest, I told myself that maybe I did love her. Maybe this was what love felt like, this constant, low-grade anxiety mixed with euphoria and lust. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The first red flag showed up about 2 weeks after the L-word exchange. I was at her place, making dinner while she was in the shower. Her phone kept buzzing on the counter, and I'm not proud of this, but curiosity got the better of me. I glanced down and saw multiple notifications from someone named Tom Work. Now, I'm not normally the jealous type, but something about the frequency of these messages set off alarm bells. When she came out of the shower and saw me looking at her phone, she snatched it up a little too quickly. "Sorry, work stuff," she said, tapping out a quick reply before putting the phone face down on the counter. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just Tom from the marketing department. We're working on a project together." She kissed me on the cheek and changed the subject. I let it go. After all, people have work colleagues they text with, right? It's normal. Totally normal. Except the texts always seemed to come at night. Or on weekends. And she always seemed to step away to answer them. But I was in love, or at least I thought I was, so I ignored the uneasy feeling in my gut. Instead, I doubled down. I started planning more elaborate dates, buying her small gifts for no reason, essentially trying to prove, to her or to myself, I'm not sure, that what we had was real. About 5 months in, I decided to take her to meet my parents. It was a big step, but it felt right. My folks live about an hour outside the city, and I warned her that my mom would probably ask intrusive questions about our future plans. "It's fine," she said, squeezing my hand as we drove. I can handle parents. They usually love me. And she wasn't wrong. My mom was practically planning our wedding by dessert, and my dad, who normally sizes up any girl I'd bring home with suspicious eyes, was laughing at all her jokes. It was going perfectly. Until my phone died, and she offered to let me use hers to check the score of the game my dad and I had been talking about. As I unlocked her phone, yes, I already knew her passcode, another sign of trust that I now see differently. A notification popped up from Tom Work. Miss you already? Last night was amazing. My stomach dropped. I quickly checked the score, handed her back the phone, and tried to act normal for the rest of the evening. But inside, I was in free fall. The drive back to the city was quiet. I was trying to figure out how to bring it up without sounding like I'd been snooping. In the end, I didn't have to. You saw the text, didn't you? She asked, staring out the passenger window. Yeah, I admitted. Who's Tom? She sighed. He's just someone from work. It's not serious. Not serious. Like what we had was serious, but her thing with Tom was casual? Recreational? Are you sleeping with him? I asked, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. She didn't answer immediately, which was an answer in itself. It's complicated, she finally said. We have a history. It started before you and I met, and I've been trying to end it. So that's a yes, I said, feeling something cold and hard settling in my chest. Jason, it doesn't mean anything. What you and I have is real. I love you. There was that word again. Love. It felt like a weapon now. If it doesn't mean anything, why are you still doing it? I asked. She launched into an explanation about how Tom was going through a rough time, how she felt responsible for him in some way, how she didn't want to hurt him. It was all very noble and selfless, if you ignored the fact that she was actively cheating on me. Looking back, I should have ended it right there. Driven her home, dropped her off, and never looked back. But I was an idiot in love, or whatever twisted version of love I'd convinced myself we had. It ends now, I said firmly. Him or me? She chose me. Or said she did? She called him right there in the car, put it on speaker, and told him they couldn't see each other anymore. He didn't take it well, calling her names that made me want to find him and rearrange his face. But she held firm, and by the time we got back to my place, I'd convinced myself that we could move past this. For about 2 weeks, things seemed better. She was more attentive, more affectionate. She'd text me throughout the day, sending me photos of random things that made her think of me. She started talking about our future, maybe moving in together when her lease was up in a few months. Then came the work conference in Chicago. She'd mentioned it casually about a month before. A 3-day marketing conference that she had to attend, as part of her job. I didn't think much of it at the time. But as the date approached, I started noticing things. Like how she bought new lingerie for the trip. Or how she was suddenly very protective of her phone again. The night before she was supposed to leave, I asked her point blank, Is Tom going to be at this conference? She looked surprised, then defensive. Why are you bringing him up again? I told you that's over. You didn't answer my question, I said. She sighed dramatically. Yes, he'll be there. The whole marketing department is going. But nothing is going to happen. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something had changed inside me. The trust was gone, and without trust, what did we really have? Let me see your phone, I said. Excuse me? Her eyes narrowed. Your phone. I want to see your messages with Tom. No, she said, crossing her arms. That's private. Private? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're sleeping with the guy behind my back, and you're worried about privacy? I'm not sleeping with him anymore, she shouted. God, Jason, when are you going to let this go? But I couldn't let it go. So while she was in the bathroom, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. And there it was, in black and white, text after text with Tom, planning their Chicago rendezvous. Where they'd meet, what excuse she'd give to her clingy boyfriend, even what floor their hotel rooms were on. When she came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in my hand, feeling like the world's biggest fool. "Get out," I said quietly. She tried to explain, to justify, to turn it around on me for invading her privacy. But I was done listening. I packed up the few things she kept at my place, handed them to her, and escorted her to the door. "Jason, please," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you." "No," I said, suddenly seeing everything clearly. You don't even know what that word means." I closed the door on her protests and leaned against it, expecting to feel devastated. Instead, I felt relieved. Like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't even realized was there, and now it was gone. The next few weeks were rough. She called and texted constantly, alternating between apologies and accusations. She showed up at my apartment unannounced. She even sent me photos of her and Tom together, then claimed her account had been hacked when I didn't respond the way she wanted. I blocked her number, changed my locks, and tried to move on. But the whole experience left me with questions I couldn't shake. How had I missed the signs? Why had I been so willing to ignore my instincts? And most disturbing of all, had she ever truly cared about me, or was I just a convenient distraction, a backup plan? Mike, who I hadn't seen much during my relationship with Eliza, became my lifeline. He didn't say, "I told you so," even though he probably could have. Instead, he listened as I dissected every moment of my time with Eliza, looking for clues I'd missed. "She love-bombed you, man," he said one night as we sat on his balcony, nursing beers. "It's a classic move. They come on strong, make you feel special, get you hooked, and then the real person comes out." "But why?" I asked. "What's the point?" He shrugged. "Control. Attention. Some people just like having options." 6 months after the breakup, I ran into a woman who worked with Eliza at a coffee shop downtown. I barely knew her, Jessica, I think her name was, but she recognized me and came over to my table. "You're Jason, right? Eliza's ex?" I nodded, bracing myself for whatever was coming next. "I just wanted to say, you dodged a bullet," she said, lowering her voice. "She does this all the time. Finds some nice guy, makes him fall for her, then keeps seeing her exes on the side. Tom wasn't the only one, by the way. There was also her gym friend Ryan and some guy from her hometown who would visit every few months." I should have been angry, but all I felt was a sad kind of vindication. "Why are you telling me this?" Jessica shrugged. "Because you seemed like a decent guy, and what she did wasn't fair. And because she's doing it again to some poor architect she met at a bar, and it's getting old watching her play the same games." As Jessica walked away, I had a moment of clarity so profound it was almost physical. Eliza wasn't just a cheater, she was a predator. She targeted men like me, stable, trusting, maybe a little lonely. Men who would be so grateful for her attention that they'd ignore red flags the size of billboards. And that, "I love you," that had short-circuited my brain. It was calculated. A test to see how invested I was, how much she could get away with. In the years since that conversation with Jessica, I've done a lot of thinking about modern relationships. About how social media and dating apps have created this culture of constant options, of always wondering if something better is out there. About how words like love have become weapons in some people's arsenals rather than expressions of genuine emotion. I've also thought about my own role in what happened. I ignored my instincts. I put Eliza on a pedestal she didn't deserve. I was so afraid of being alone that I accepted crumbs and called it a feast. Not anymore. These days, I'm seeing someone new. It's going slowly, and I'm okay with that. Sarah doesn't try to rush me or pressure me. She doesn't need constant validation or attention. She just exists alongside me, building something real. She hasn't said, "I love you," yet, and neither have I. But when it happens, if it happens, I won't short-circuit. I'll know what real love looks like now, consistent, honest, patient. And I'll recognize the counterfeits immediately. As for Eliza? Last I heard, she's engaged to that architect. I considered warning him, but decided against it. Some lessons you have to learn the hard way. Besides, I'm not responsible for saving every guy from women like her. I'm just responsible for myself. And that's enough.